It's critical that the Jews must be white, theologically. Because once the Jews are white and they're at the door of the Bible, then anyone who reads this text must read it through the interpretation and the culture of those that are claimed to be Jews. So once the Jews are white, do you have a problem with the white Jesus? Why would you have a problem? It's a rewriting, it's a stealing of black history. Blatant. One of the biggest lies ever told on the face of the earth is that Jews are white. One of the biggest lies ever told historically, academically, ethnographically. Go back and purge through your history books. Find me a white man who was taken as a slave in Israel, from Israel to Egypt, to work to build the pyramids. White people, slaves in Egypt. And Moses came to redeem white people.
Family, this video is one of the most powerful videos you'll ever see in the internet. And I'd say, without any fear of contradiction, that this is the most powerful video that I'm yet to watch, of Bishop Maponga, Bishop Joshua Maponga, clearly stating on how the Bible has been whitewashed, why they are forcing narratives to try and even say that the real Israelites, are white folks. He says that this is a white supremacist agenda, and he believes that this agenda is being pushed to ensure that black folks always obey the white powers and the white power structures. And family, once again, I say this is one of the most powerful videos, and I want you to watch it keenly so that you're able to understand how the system has been working against the black folks, especially in the whitewashing of the Bible and whitewashing religion, to ensure that black folks always give in to the power of the white structures. I give all credits to the Hustler Corner SA by DJ SPU and their team for an amazing work to put up this video in the internet. I do not own rights to the video. All rights reserved to the Hustler Corner SA by DJ SPU. So fam, let's go straight to the video. Once the video is done, we will also get back here and do a critical analysis about the same video. Let's watch this together, family.
Donald Trump, I don't like him, but I think he represents something. Donald Trump will be successful in America based on one factor, that he represents the deep white capitalists, the deep white separatists, what they say to each other when we are not there. He represents, and same thing to Afrikaners here. It's one thing to say, 100 million, fine. I'm not putting everyone in one blanket. But there's a group of Afrikaners in the White Forum, in the Afri Forum, and some of those in Hekerk, the Orania mindset, when they are by themselves, away from us, and you hear what they say in the privacy of their own homes, they represent what AfriForum is doing. And those are the funders of AfriForum. And similarly so in America, we may think that Donald Trump is halfway between there and there, but I think fundamentally he represents that. And when he is ill-advised, Elon Musk and Trump become cousins because their orientation, their worldview, their perception of the black problem, black poverty, and black suffering. They were educated by the same teacher of separatists, colonialism, and apartheid. So they are friends, fundamentally. Even if they don't meet eye to eye, but after they've finished quarreling, they are taught and educated in the very same format. There are two computers, basically, that are programmed by the same person.
And they're both very close friends of Netanyahu.
We must find his real name, Netanyahu. That one is a fake name for Israel. He's got his real European name because he's not a Jew. You heard me? Google it up. What is Netanyahu's real name? They were converted, these Turkish, and in the book, The 13th Tribe by Ford, you'll actually find some of this information readily available.
It was common practice for Zionist immigrants at the time to adopt a Hebrew name. Nathan Mileikovsky began signing some of the articles he wrote. Netanyahu, the Hebrew version of his name, and his son adopted this and his family name. So his real name is Nathan Mileikovsky. I didn't know this. Okay.
Part of learning and growing.
So his real name is Nathan.
Yeah.
Not Benjamin.
Now we go.
His real surname is Mileiskovsky, not Netanyahu. Why would they change their name though?
To adapt to the Hebrew Jewish narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody posted a video of, I think it was in 17 or 1800s, of an old movie of people that lived in Jerusalem at the time. And most of them were black people.
You can Google again the Egyptian prime minister who says he's not going to accept Jerusalem as it is right now. Because when the Israelis left here, they were black. Now they came back white. So he's not going to recognize that.
So what do you want me to Google?
You can Google the Egyptian president who refused to accept the white Jews. So they left here as black. Now they're coming back as white. So when did the Jews become white? Because the Fertile Crescent sits on the Platonic stone of Africa, literally. It's impossible that white people can come out of Israel. But of course, to fit with the United Nations narrative of reclaiming the 1946, 47 treaties of giving Israelis back their land, then you find these white people, these converted Ashkenazis who converted into Judaism, claiming to be Hebrews and Jews.
Why would they do that though?
It's a religious benefit. It's a religious benefit. Again, it plays into the white supremacy narrative that they are the chosen people. And because they are chosen people, it resuscitates and sanitizes all white people. It's critical that the Jews must be white, theologically. Because once the Jews are white and they're at the door of the Bible, then anyone who reads this text must read it through the interpretation and the culture of those that are claimed to be Jews. So once the Jews are white, do you have a problem with the white Jesus? Why would you have a problem? It's a rewriting, it's a stealing of black history. Blatant. One of the biggest lies ever told on the face of the earth is that Jews are white. One of the biggest lies ever told historically, academically, ethnographically. Go back and purge through your history books. Find me a white man who was taken as a slave in Israel, from Israel to Egypt, to work to build the pyramids. White people, slaves in Egypt. And Moses came to redeem white people.
In 1958, President Nasser of Egypt said of the Jews, they left here black and came back white. What did he really mean though? They say he meant the truth. Millions of modern Jews are either converts or light-skinned mixed race people who don't fit the description of the earliest inhabitants of Israel.
It is two ways. He said that he is saying that when they left Egypt, they left here as blacks. But now he's being told to recognize them in Israel and they're all white. So how did the transformation happen? That a black nation ended up as a white nation. But this is theological bigotry and mischief, where academic institutions of theology have allowed to whitewash the Bible and whitewash the theology to fit into the colonial narrative.
The ancient Middle East was first settled by Hamitic people, including the Cushites. The legendary ruler, Cushite king Nimrod, the Ethiopian, is immortalized in geographic and place names like Nimrod Fortress Castle in Israel.
The Hyksos. There was actually a period of the whitening, even research on that also, the whitening of Egypt. Where
Say that again.
the whitening of Egypt.
The white?
Whitening.
Oh, the whitening. Oh, okay.
Whitening of Egypt, where actually the Hyksos were defeated. And the light in complexion Arabs started taking all the black Hyksos as slaves and pushed them out of royalty and now started having them white. Now when you walk around Egypt, it looks like it's a white country, when actually there was a process of the whitening of Egypt and the extermination of the black Hyksos, and hence the removal of the nose of all the statues to not show that the history that was here was of the flat-nosed people rather than the sharp-nosed people who are now claiming history as theirs.
The whitening of Egypt is a controversial idea that has been used to claim that ancient Egypt was a white civilization. However, mainstream Western scholars reject the idea. The idea that ancient Egypt was white or black is considered anachronistic by Western scholars. They argue that applying modern racial concepts to ancient Egypt is incorrect. Scholars also reject the idea that ancient Egypt was racially homogeneous. Instead, they believe that skin color varied between people from Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia. The controversy over the racial identity of Egypt has continued into the modern era.
And why again, let's put these two arguments back to back. Number one, you have a religious argument, which gives you the white people as Jews. Number two, you have an academic argument, which is now trying to exterminate the black history and make it white. So see what's happening here. Academically, by claiming the history of Egypt as white history, you have been able to remove black people away from innovation, from academics, from history, as the originators and the most ancient civilization on the face of the earth. You claim that history, make Cleopatra white woman, make the pharaohs white people, make Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt, make them white. That whole movie, rubbish, scandalous narratives. So by taking away our history and by sitting at the door of religion, you are able to brainwash people that they're inferior to you because their civilization, without them, there's no civilization. Without them, there's no salvation. So the white people become the gatekeepers of your economy, your history, and your religious expression. It can't be more blatant than that. A person who steals your car is much better than a person who steals your identity. At a moment of your unconsciousness, I come and I change your name. When you wake up, I give you a wrong name. And you can never trace again who you are. That's cruel. That's cruel that you will walk past your mother's house and you will not recognize her. Because I took advantage when you were not conscious. That I make you hate your own brother. That's cruel. Because I'm withholding information from you to tell you that this is your blood brother. Now, stealing identity cannot be more gruesome than that.
Still on that conversation, why is there what they call the Black Madonna all over Europe? What is the Black Madonna?
The history of worshipping mother and child has its origins within the Egyptian space, where the birth even of the Messiah itself, Mary, has still been preserved as a black woman. So the Mary, the Madonna, is black, literally. In Russia the other day, is it a year ago, when Russia actually released all those pictures, most ancient pictures of the drawings of Jesus and his disciples, and they're all black. And the whole world caught a fit of rage. But how could you be releasing such pictures? But if these are the oldest pictures of the drawings of Jesus that are all in black, then where did the white ones come from? So is there some historicity accuracy in those paintings that are depicting a different painting altogether to a religious bigotry on the other side? The answer is yes. So the oldest pictures of something could be the most likely, the closest representation of what you're trying to talk about. So yes, Madonna is black. These are the Madonnas that we are seeing around, these Marys that we are seeing that are white. They just whitewashed the religious expressions. But if you're supposed to look at it from the historical perspective, then the black color becomes much more mature. And I was laughing this morning, actually, a research that has just come out from China, and I'm glad it's coming out from China, a slightly neutral corner, where the zebra, black and white fish, and the non-striped fish are seen together, and this one guy is doing a research to see how did this fish lose its skin, and the mutations and what. And actually the research concluded that the striped fish, the zebra striped fish, are the more original than. Then they studied the mutation and to come up with a conclusion actually that says, if we could crack it on the fish, now we know, finally, how the white people became white by mutation. But it's a whole fresh research. I was just reading it this morning, that finally, before I die, we are going to make one big announcement to all white people out there that you are our children. Not only our children, the Kenyan woman gene, which is 200 and what million years old.
The Eve gene, right?
The mutation of that gene is found in all races. So she remains the mother.
All of us.
So stop talking nonsense. And I don't know why people want to celebrate the whiteness of the Bible instead of celebrating the originality of the text, which is black, which is African. And this is maybe what turned me off away from the Bible, because it looks like they're more interested in the white culture rather than they're interested in the historicity of the text itself. Scholars, educated scholars, don't want to look at this subject with no emotions, with no whitewashed minds, but just to study it as a subject and present truth as is. No, would rather be preaching the gospel of the missionaries that constantly seeks to make black people less of who they really are, which is unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
Wow. I just lack the words to describe what I have learned in the video, and also what I have unlearned, because we've been put to learn about an agenda that is false. And Bishop Joshua Maponga has spoken extensively, and he's tried to explain to black communities all over the world that we have been played over the years. Our history has been rewritten. Our innovations have been given credit to white power structures. And family, this is a video that I really, really recommend. And I just think that we can learn a lot from the video. The first thing that Bishop Joshua Maponga says is that the Europeans changed their names to adapt to the Jewish Hebrews narratives. The Egyptian Prime Minister once said that he will not accept Jerusalem, as a city, because when the Israelites left, they were black and now they came back white. He refuses to recognize that. Family, that alone can tell you that there is something that is off. People who left as black, how do they come back as white people? What happened in between? What's the story behind, all this? He proceeds to say that it's impossible for white people to come out of Israel, but the idea is to fit in the United Nations narrative of reclaiming the 1946-1947 treaties of giving Israelis back their land, where whites who converted to Judaism claiming to be Hebrews and Jews to fit the white supremacist narrative. So far, ideally, there is no way white folks, inhabited Israel. The narrative was changed in between to ensure that it fits the white supremacist ideologies. It's critical that the Jews must be white theologically, because once the Jews are white and they have the door of the Bible, then anyone who reads this text must read it through interpretation and culture of those that claim to be Jews. The white supremacists have always taken advantage, of their whitewashing of the Bible. Family, I have done multiple videos in this sector, and the one thing that I want you to notice that is constant is that the Bible is actually a black history book. But now, the fact that the white power structures, whitewashed it. The whole idea was to manipulate the black populations. The whole idea was for them to gain respect from black people. If Jesus, is white, that would mean that if you're a black man, you have to bow to power. Jesus looks like them. That's the whole idea. The Bible speaks about them. You'll give them respect. That is how they were able to push slavery. They were able to push colonialism, because of lies here and there, because of whitewashing black history. Once Jews are white, it's critical that the Jews must be white theologically, because once the Jews are white and they have the door to the Bible, then anyone who reads this text must read it through the interpretation and the culture of those that claim to be Jews. Once Jews are white, why would you have a problem, with white Jesus? You're already convinced, it's a stealing of black history. The biggest lies ever told in the face of history is that Jews are white people. Family, whatever you see out here, many a times the history that we know is a lie. The real history many a times is the black history, the very ancient history. You also know that black people were the first people in the face of earth. Many innovations, civilizations were first black. That one you'll never be taught. History will be rewritten and you'll be confused and you'll see yourself as they really try to be dominant and make us feel like we are no one, They want us to feel inferior. I was looking for that word. The biggest lies ever told in the face of history is that Jews are white folks. They are whitewashing the Bible and theology to fit in the white narrative. Do you know how big that has made them? Whitewashing the Bible to fit in the white narrative has just made them so big. You also hear of the story of the whitening of Egypt. Nowadays when you go to Egypt, you'll find most of these populations as white. They had to whitewash Egypt as an agenda. They are claiming the history of Egypt as white. Means black people are removed from innovation, academics, history, and as the originators and the most ancient civilization on the face of the earth. Making Pharaoh white, Moses taking Israelites out of Egypt, they are making the old stories white. How does this even fit in? These people have been pushing the lying agenda for the longest time. So I also went further after I watched this video to go and try and find more, I did more research in regards to what the Bishop Joshua Maponga spoke in the video. And here's what I found out, that the claim that black people, particularly African Americans, are the real Israelites is a belief held by various religious and cultural movements, especially among groups like the Hebrew Israelites or the Black Hebrew Israelites. Here's a breakdown to help you understand this perspective more deeply. The core belief in many, in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, believe that black people in Americas, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, are true descendants of the ancient Israelites mentioned in the Bible, not the people traditionally recognized as Jewish today. Here are some of the key arguments they use. Number one is the biblical prophecy. The Deuteronomy 28 is often cited, especially verses describing a people being taken in ships. Which people have been taken in ships in history? Those are black folks. scattered and enslaved. Which group of people have been enslaved? Black people, you know, which they claim matches the Black American historical experience. That's why many people would say today that black people, the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, you know, are the real Israelites, because now these are the same people who are actually enslaved, same people who are taken in ships, as prophesied in Deuteronomy 28. That's a story of the black folk. When you look at the historical displacement, they argue that after the fall of the ancient Israel, Israelites fled into parts of Africa and were eventually captured and sold into slavery. You know, this is also the history of black people in Africa, and they were sold to slavery. Then when you look at it from a cultural and spiritual parallels, you notice that there are similarities in customs, spirituality, and the oral traditions between African tribes and Old Testament laws are seen as proof. Different groups have different views. Not all groups agree on everything. Some are for the peaceful and religious teaching, biblical heritage, and self-discipline. Others are more militant or confrontational, especially those seen on the street corners preaching judgment. The mainstream Jewish and historical scholars view, most historians and the mainstream Jewish scholars do not support the idea that black Americans are literal descendants of the Israelites. They actually argue that there is no direct genetic, archaeological, or historical evidence. The biblical curses are not unique to black history. They've been applied to many oppressed peoples. You know, that is what other people actually do believe. Family, I want you to take this opportunity and comment down below and tell me what you think about the message in the video. Kindly do consider subscribing to the channel. We are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers, fam. Also like the video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users. The goal of the channel has always been to speak about black history, black empowerment, and to ensure that we tell black stories the black way, because when we give them an opportunity to tell our story, many a times we know what happens. Our stories are distorted, our histories are whitewashed. Thank you guys, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.